Dear students, welcome back to our discussion on LK16 property, plant and equipment. In our previous video, we talked about introduction part to LK16, recognition criteria for property, plant and equipment, and how to measure property, plant and equipment at its initial recognition. There we studied property, plant and equipment is measured initially at cost, and cost includes purchase cost and all those costs company or entity incurred in bringing the asset to the current location and conditions, and the present value of future dismantling cost relating to the asset if there's any. In this video we are going to talk about how to measure these property, plant and equipments at the reporting dates, that is subsequent measurements of property, plant and equipments at the reporting dates. When it comes to measure property, plant and equipments at its reporting dates, an entity has a policy choice. An entity can adopt either cost model of measuring PPE or either revaluation model to measure PPE at reporting dates. So we'll first discuss about cost model to measure the property, plant and equipment. Under cost model, property, plant and equipment or PPE is carried at cost less accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment losses if any. So accordingly, we can measure the carrying amount at reporting date like this. We have already discussed how to recognize the cost and how to measure the cost. This cost minus accumulated depreciation at the reporting date minus if there's any impairment losses. We will discuss what is meant by impairment losses in a separate chapter, right? Anyway, for the time being, we say impairment losses is deducted from the cost, then you can find out carrying amount at the reporting date. So this is the value at which PP is reported in the financial statement as the carrying amount. Okay. So as and when the company consume the economic benefits, when the company is extracting the economic benefit from the assets, its service potential is reduced, its value is reduced. So this value reduction is recognized as a cost to the firm. This cost may be an expense or part of another asset. So we'll discuss this concept later, right? Okay. Then depreciation can be defined in line with LKS as a systematic allocation of the depreciable amount of an asset over its useful life. So accordingly, what is depreciated is not the cost, actually the depreciable amount. So depreciable amount is the difference between cost and residual value. So we'll now discuss what is meant by useful life, because asset is depreciated over useful life. So when it comes to understand the useful life, some people sometimes confuse between the two concepts called useful life and economic life. So what is important for us to depreciate our asset is not the economic life. What is important for us is useful life of the asset. So the useful life of an asset is defined in terms of asset expected utility to the business, not in terms of economic life. So most of the cases, useful life of an asset may be shorter than the economic life. So when it comes to look at the, let's say, motor vehicles, some countries may not allow its citizens to drive all cars on their roads. For example, let's say sometimes the country might not allow its citizens to drive a car older than 10 years. So accordingly, when the car is 10-year-old, those cars should not be, those cars are not allowed to be on the roads. So those cars are then sent into um, vehicle yards. From these vehicle yards, these cars will be crushed and recycled, or those cars might be exported to other developing countries. Right, so you can now see in this particular country, these cars useful life is over, but still they have economic life. So that's why it is those cars can still be exported to other countries, right? So these cars are exported to another country, developing countries, and in those developing countries, these cars might start their new life, and right, and in those countries, these cars might be used more than sometime 20 or 30 years. So still they have economic life, right? Sometime from these countries, these cars might be exported to another country where they still believe this asset have still economic values, right? So accordingly, we don't worry about the economic life when it comes to depreciate. What is important for us is the expected useful life of the asset to the business. So accordingly, for example, let's say a company purchased furniture for $10,000, and let's say economic life of this furniture is 25 years. Even if we have the economic life of 25 years, we are going to use this furniture only for 10 years. Let's say the company is a hotel. Company is not going to use furniture which are older than 10 years. So company usually refurbish their hotel with the new furniture in every 10 years time. So according, company has the plan to dispose this furniture in 10 years time. So accordingly, we can predict what would be the disposable value of or the scrap value of this furniture after 10 years time. Let's say the residual value of the scrap value of this furniture after 10 years time is $2,000. We can now see cost is 10,000, and after 10 years time the expected scrap value is residual value is 2,000. So accordingly, during the 10-year period, asset value has dropped from $10,000 to $2,000. So accordingly, depreciable amount over the 10-year period is $8,000. So accordingly, we can easily compute what is the value reduction per year. So it is expected this depreciation is distributed evenly throughout the useful life. We can say annual depreciation or annual value reduction, annual depreciation is $800. Next, we'll now see what are the factors that determines the useful life of an asset. So useful life of an asset to the business organization mainly depending on some factors. For example, expected uses of the asset. For example, if we are going to employ or work for 8-hour shift per day, then you might expect your machine to use for 10 years. But if you are going to work two work shifts per day, then expected utility or the expected useful life of the asset might be less than 10 years. It might be 6 years or 5 years. Then expected physical wear and tear. For example, you might be willing to use your multimedia projector for, let's say, 5 years. You might be willing to use it for 5 years, but its physical wear and physical tear may not allow you to use it for 5 years. Multimedia projector bulb has a limited economic life of, let's say, limited life of 2 years. Then you can maximum period you can use your multimedia projector would be 2 years. So accordingly, expected physical wear and tear affects your useful life of the asset. Then technical or commercial obsolescence of the assets. Let's say you are using a particular computer machines, and that right, as a result of the technical improvements, your computer machine may not be supportive with the advanced technology. Then legal or similar limits on the use of the asset. Sometimes even if you are willing to use your asset for longer period, sometimes government or environmental rules and regulation may not allow you to use them for asset. So these are some of the factors that affect the useful life of the asset, because useful life is the life we consider when it comes to depreciation computation. So when it comes to compute the amount of depreciation, the residual value and the useful life of the asset is very important, because depreciation, we defined earlier, depreciation is the systematic allocation of depreciable amount of an asset over its useful life. So when it comes to compute depreciable amount, you must know residual value. At the same time, you must be able to estimate your useful life. So accordingly, your depreciation computation is highly influenced by residual value of the asset and useful life. So accordingly, LK 16 requires the company to review and re-estimate this residual value and the useful life of the asset at least each financial year end. If these estimates change, it should be accounted in line with LK 8 changes in accounting estimates. Okay, we'll now discuss what are the depreciation methods available for a company when it comes to compute depreciation relating to property, plant and equipment. So an organization uses depreciation methods to reflect the pattern of which the asset future economic benefits being consumed by the organization. So accordingly, there are different depreciation methods allowed by recognized by LK 16. We have straight line method of depreciation, diminishing balance method or reducing balance method of depreciation, and unit of production basis. So whatever the basis we use should reflect the way we are going to consume economic benefit from the assets. So accordingly, we will now first discuss straight line method. On the straight line method of depreciation, we distribute the depreciable amount of the asset over the economic life by dividing the depreciable amount by the economic life. So accordingly, this will allow you to distribute your depreciable amount evenly throughout the useful life. So we can compute easily depreciation under this method by dividing the depreciable amount by the useful life. If you want, you can compute the depreciation rate on the straight line method. You can simply compute depreciation rate by dividing 100 by the useful life. Let's say useful life is 2 years, 100 divided by 2, annual depreciation rate is 50%. The useful life is 4, you can divide 100 by 4, then annual depreciation is 25%. 5 years, divide 100 by 5 years, then annual depreciation is 20%. So if you want, you can divide depreciable amount by the useful life or depreciable amount multiplied by the depreciation rate. Now let's say a company has purchased furniture for $5,000 and it has a useful life of 5 years and the residual value of 3,000. So we can easily compute annual depreciation according to straight line method by distributing depreciable amount over the economic life like this. So depreciable amount is accordingly 2,000 because cost is 5,000, cost minus residual value 3,000. Depreciable amount is 2,000. 2,000 is divided by economic life 5. So annual depreciation is 400 Then we'll discuss the diminishing balance method. Under diminishing balance method, we recognize, so under diminishing balance method, asset is expected to be uh, depreciated at a high value at the beginning of the usage, and as the time passes the amount of depreciation is going to be reduced. For example, when it comes to consider luxury car, when the luxury car is registered and start usage, its value is reduced at a high amount. So under diminishing balance method, depreciation amount is computed by multiplying book value with the rate of depreciation. So at the beginning of the year, we identify what is the reported book value at the beginning multiplied by the rate of depreciation. So here the rate of depreciation computation is very important. So we can compute the rate of depreciation like this: 1 minus root n of salvage value divided by cost. So salvage value is the residual amount, so you divide the residual amount but by the cost and get the root n represented by the useful life. You can take that, you can deduct that answer from 1, then you can identify, you can decide what is the depreciation rate. So we'll now see how this rate comes. So you know present value times 1 plus r to the power n equals to future value. So using this particular finance mathematics formula, we can derive depreciation rate computation. This present value times 1 plus r represents annually present value is going to be increased by this r rate. But on a diminishing balance method, present value or the cost is going to be reduced. So we need to make a slight change like this: present value times 1 minus r to the power n equal future value. So present value represent our present cost is going to be reduced at the r rate, at a depreciation rate this much. N represent useful life, future will represent our scrap value or residual value. So accordingly, if you want, so we want to find out what is r. If you want to find out r, we can send this PV to the other side, FV divided by PV. Now we want to take r, so we can send to the power n to the other side, then it will be performing the opposite of the function that it did here as to the power will become root. Still we want to find out our r, so we can say r equal, we can bring this minus r to this side and this fraction set we can send it to other side, so it will be 1 minus FV divided by PV root n. So you can see r, or annual rate of depreciation, equal future value divided by present value root n, that should be deducted from 1. Our future value represents here residual value or future expected disposable value. Present value represents our cost, n represents useful value. So that's how we derive this formula to compute rate of depreciation under diminishing balance method. Okay, we'll now consider a simple example. Cost of an asset is 10,000, useful life is 5 years, scrap value is 3,277, and you are asked to compute depreciation rate and depreciation over 5 years. So this time you want to compute rate of depreciation. We will now see how to compute rate of depreciation. So cost of the asset is 10,000 and the scrap value is 3,277 and the useful life is 5 years and rate of depreciation accordingly we can compute like this. Rate of depreciation is equal 1 minus scrap value divided by cost root 5. Instead of getting root 5, we can take it like as a power 1 divided by 5, same result, right? I think you know mathematics. So you can see our rate of depreciation is 20%. So with this 20%, so this is our formula: 1 minus future value divided by present value root n. Future value is the scrap value divided by present value is the cost, 10,000 root 5. Your answer is 20%. So accordingly annual depreciation rate should be 20%. So we will now see how to compute depreciation according to this method. Initial cost is 10,000, so depreciation rate is 20%. So first year depreciation is 2,000. So book value or carrying amount at the date at the reporting date or at the year end 8,000. So when it comes to compute the depreciation for the year 2, we compute the depreciation based on the book value, not based on the original cost. So for the second year, book value is 8,000 and still we apply 20% depreciation rate. So depreciation is now 1,600. So you can see first year we recognize 2,000 depreciation, but the second year depreciation is 1,600, so it is reducing. So end of year 2, book value is 6,400. Like this you can see depreciation amounts annually recognized is going to be reduced year by year. End of year 5, you can see book value is equal to the residual value. So accordingly it means our calculation is correct. So next method is unit of production method. Under unit of production method, the useful life of the asset is expressed in terms of total number of units that you expect to produce from the asset. If you produce more units, you can recognize more depreciation for the year. If you produce relatively lesser units, you can you can recognize relatively low amount of depreciation. So we can compute according to annual depreciation by dividing the depreciable amount by the total expected number of units we can produce from the asset times actual number of units produced during that particular period. So let's say cost of a particular photocopy machine is 170,000 and expected number of copies that you can produce with the machine is 200,000 copies. Scrap value is 10,000 rupees after the useful life, and the units produced during 2020 was 75,000 copies. So you are required to compute depreciation charge for the year. So let's see how to compute. First we need to compute what is the depreciable amount. So cost minus residual value, depreciable amount is accordingly 160,000 divided by the total expected number of units you can produce with the machine is 200,000 multiplied by the number of units you produced during the period. So 160,000 divided by 200,000 units multiplied 75,000 units you produce. So accordingly you can recognize amount of depreciation for the year is 60,000 rupees. Next, so accordingly, LK16 recognize three methods to compute depreciation. We already discussed straight line methods, diminishing balance method, and units of production method. But LKS does not prescribe particular method to adopt. So accordingly, entity should use whatever the method that reflect the pattern in which the asset future economic benefits are going to be consumed by the entity. So accordingly, entity has the freedom to adopt whatever the depreciation method, but the method should reflect how the entity is going to consume the economic benefit from the assets. Okay, in this activity 6.5, you are given information regarding 5 categories of PPEs. They are cost, residual value, and the fair value at the end of financial year 2018. So you are required to determine appropriate depreciation method for each category of PP. So you can see there are 5 categories of PP. We will now see what is the appropriate method based on the information given. Machinery is expected to produce 1.5 million units, and during the period under consideration, it has produced 300,000 units. So accordingly, we can say machinery we can depreciate based on unit of production basis. Then expected useful life of the machine is 4 years. Okay. Then the factory equipment are used for production department, and the technology associated with them are expected to upgrade often. So if any asset is going to be updated very often, it means in the early stage it should depreciate very high rate, because asset is going to be quickly outdated. So early stage you can expect more economic benefits. So accordingly, asset like this we can adopt diminishing balance method, and the useful life of this equipment are 3 years. Then expected useful life of the building and the office equipment are 20 years and 5 years respectively. Both building and office equipment expected to be used evenly during the useful life years. Usually asset like buildings and the furniture, usually these assets are going to be used evenly throughout the period. So accordingly, we can adopt for this kind of asset straight line method of depreciation. So it reflects the pattern we are going to consume its economic benefits. So accordingly, we can say for land we don't depreciate. For building, straight line methods, machinery, unit of production, factory equipment which are highly exposed to technological changes, adopt diminishing balance method. Then office equipment, straight line methods. So when it comes to compute depreciation, for land there is no depreciation, we don't depreciate. Then a building, depreciable amount is 2000 divided by the useful life is 20. Accordingly, annual depreciation is 100,000. Machinery, depreciable amount is 2 million divided by 1.5 million multiplied by 300. Accordingly, depreciation is 400,000. Factory equipment, cost is 2.2 million, and the rate of depreciation is 32%. So rate of depreciation we need to compute based on the given information. So what are the information given? Factory equipments, residual value is 700, cost is 2.2 million, and number of years is 3 years. So we can accordingly compute depreciation rate. It is 32%. So if you want, we can compute it like this. Cost is 2.2 million, and the scrap value is 700, and our economic life is 3 years. So yes, you can see it is 32%. So we computed this rate earlier, same formula used. Cost is 2.2 million, scrap value is 700,000, useful life is 3 years, and when you add substitute these values to the formula, it gives you 32% as the annual rate of depreciation under diminishing balance method. Okay, so accordingly annual depreciation is, for the first year we compute based on the cost times depreciation, it is 698,000. Office equipment and straight line method is very convenient. Cost minus residual value, so depreciable amount is 300,000 divided by 5, annual depreciation is 60,000. Next, component depreciation. Sometimes some asset may include several major components which are having different economic life or different useful lives. In a situation like this, instead of depreciating the whole asset as a single asset, we can depreciate its parts, its major components differently based on different useful lives separately. For example, let's say you have a passenger flight, and passenger flight has the different major components. They are having different economic life. For example, jet engine has a different economic life, and its airframe has a different economic life, and their seats and other equipment has different economic life. So that it is not good to depreciate the whole passenger flight as a single asset. So instead of depreciating the whole passenger flight as a single asset, we can depreciate its key components separately. So we'll now consider a simple example on this concept. Blue Sky Aviation PLC purchased an aircraft on 1st April 2017 at a cost of 6.5 million. Following information relates to the aircraft. So you can see total cost of the aircraft is 650 million, and the this passenger aircraft has 3 main components. Airframe, it was 2 million, and useful life is 10 years, residual value is 20. Aircraft engine, cost is 290 million, useful life is 7 years and residual value is 10. Other parts 160 million, useful life is 5 years and residual value is 8. So accordingly, total cost of the vehicle aircraft is 650 million, and this is how this total cost is shared among these 3 main components, and we can depreciate these 3 components separately. Instead of depreciating the entire aircraft as a single asset, we can depreciate these components separately. So as far as airframe is concerned, accordingly we can depreciate 200 million minus residual value 20 million. Accordingly, depreciable amount is 180 million divided by 10, 18 million depreciation as far as airframe is concerned. Jet engine is concerned, cost is 290, residual value is 10 million. So accordingly, depreciable amount is 280 million divided by 7, 40 million. Likewise, we can depreciate these components separately. Next, other matters relating to depreciation. So we'll now see when to start depreciation and when to cease or stop depreciation. So depreciation should start, or you should depreciation begins whenever the asset is available for use. No need to start the commercial production. The asset is ready to use, you can start depreciation. Let's say company has completed construction of a particular building or particular factory. So factory building can be depreciated even if production is not started, because depreciation begins when the asset is ready for use. Then when it comes to stop depreciation, depreciation ceases or stops at the earlier of the date when the asset is classified as held for sale in accordance with SLFRS 5, or when the date the asset is derecognized. Next one, depreciation does not cease when the asset is idle or retired from the active use, unless the asset is fully depreciated. Let's say during this COVID-19 period, most of the assets of most of the companies are idle. Still, some companies are not utilizing those assets at their full capacity. Still, there may be some idle assets at many of the factories. Even if those assets are idle, you can't say they are not going to be depreciated. You should depreciate them even if those assets are idle. Then depreciation of an asset is recognized even if the fair value of the asset exceeds its carrying amount. Yes, even if the fair value or the market value of the asset is increasing, you have to keep depreciating your asset. But you need to ensure your residual value does not exceed your carrying amount, because residual amount should be evaluated, should be reviewed yearly basis. At the end of the year, when you review your residual amount, you can see residual amount has been increased than your carrying amount. So that means you can't depreciate anymore. So in that year, you should not depreciate the asset. Following year, again you have to recheck your residual value, review your residual value. If the residual value is still greater than your carrying amount, then no depreciation. Likewise, you need to annually review your residual value. If the residual value reduced below your carrying amount, then you can again start depreciating your asset. So accordingly, in this situation, let's say carrying amount 1 million, residual value 500, fair value 800,000. Should you depreciate? Yes, you should depreciate. For this scenario, you should depreciate. But this time, right, this is an exam scenario where there's an indication about the impairment. Carrying amount, we have not yet discussed what is meant by impairment, right? Anyway, in this situation, fair value is less than carrying amount. It indicates some impairment. That is not the concept we are going to discuss here. This situation is still we need to depreciate, because residual value is not greater than carrying amount. The second scenario, fair value is greater than carrying amount, residual amount is 500,000, still we need to depreciate. Third scenario, residual value is greater than carrying amount. In a scenario like this, we should not depreciate. We should stop depreciating this asset in this particular year. In the second year, following year, we can again review the residual amount, and if we say residual amount estimated to be 800,000 in the following year, then we can again start depreciating. Okay, then is depreciation always an expense? Usually people think depreciation always an expense. No, depreciation is a cost. This cost may be an expense. At the same time, there's a possibility sometimes this depreciation cost may be included in another asset. So accordingly, we cannot say depreciation is always an expense. It may be a part of another asset sometime. For example, if you use a motor vehicle, and motor vehicle depreciation is an expense. And let's say if you use building construction machines, that depreciation, that the machine depreciation can be included in the building value, because machine depreciation is the building construction overhead, so that machine depreciation can be added to the building value. So accordingly, machine depreciation is included in the building asset value. So accordingly, depreciation is not an expense always. So we can say sometime asset decrease, equity decrease as a result of depreciation. So most of the time, depreciation people treat as an expense, asset decrease, equity decrease, but sometime it may create an asset decrease and asset increase. Next, impairment. So this is a new concept for you. So we are not going to discuss impairment in detail here, because this concept will be covered by another chapter discussion, right? So but in general, we'll now discuss here the definition of impairment. So impairment is the degree to which the carrying amount of an asset exceeds its recoverable amount. So recoverable amount is the higher of fair value less cost to sell and value in use. So if the carrying amount of an asset, that is cost minus accumulated depreciation, is greater than the fair value less cost to sell or value in use, then it implies our asset has been overstated. So if there's any indication that our carrying amount exceeds the fair value less cost to sell or value in use, then we need to write off that asset as impairment to bring it to the recoverable amount. So this concept will be discussed in detail under impairment of assets. Under it is discussed under separate chapter discussion, right? Okay. So next we are going to discuss revaluation model. So this revaluation model we will discuss in our next video on LK16 property, plant and equipment.